am your host, Mashuma Saba, M. Saba, and this is our Cultural Variety Podcast. Stay tuned. Peace, and welcome to Coffee Talk Podcast, the Cultural Variety Podcast show. Tonight we have a great topic we want to discuss from the book titled NOMICS by author and Dr. CLAUD Anderson. Tonight's topics come from chapter 7 of the book chapter representing all the people. This is Coffee Talk Podcast, and I am your host, Mashuma Saba, M. Saba, and this is the Coffee Talk Podcast show. Thank you for tuning in. Welcome to the show. How y'all doing this evening? Welcome. Tonight is our cultural studies night here at Coffee Talk Podcast. And I'm happy to be here. I'm happy to be in what we call a change of pace for this broad audience that we share this time with. This is for, the people that want to, that are unwinding for this evening. Maybe food just got done. They want to listen to a great podcast. Perhaps it's for intellectuals. And, this is the time where you are unwinding. So, thank you for being here at Coffee Talk Podcast, and we're just happy to have you here. Being that this is our cultural studies night, we're going to dive in to a 1.5 page reading. That's right, a 1.5 page reading called Representing All the People. That's right, it's called Representing All the People. It's part of chapter 7, page 190 to 192. So it's actually just 1.5 pages for those that have short attention spans. I'm just saying, people like to move on to the next thing after 70 seconds. But if this is your first time appearing at the show or checking out the show, Coffee Talk Podcast, we are a cultural variety podcast show that appears 3 times a week. We do have alternate days throughout that week. So on Sunday and Mondays, we call this the Cultural Studies Night. And of course, our culture is a very big, broad culture. It's the world's culture. And so we have a lot of different things that we can cover. You might not get what you want one week versus the next because of our culture so broad. On Wednesday nights, we do offer what we call sports, if you're just into sports, but we're not the typical sports show that cares about winning and losing. We actually care about the different intricacies that goes on in behind the scenes in the world of sports. And so that's what we focus on Wednesdays. And then on Friday and Saturdays, we have our segment that we call Grown Folks Social Hour. And basically, that's just a bunch of grown folks getting together, shooting the gab, laughing, having fun, having adult quiz questions, social quiz questions or whatnot. And that's just what we do. And, typically we like to cater to those that are probably at home on the weekends that don't go out much anymore. So, if you are looking for your spot as being a member and supporter and follower of Coffee Talk Podcast, check us out, man. We're here 3 days a week. Sunday, Monday, alternate nights, Wednesday, Thursday, alternate days, and Friday, Saturday, alternate days. So make sure you stay tuned to us and keep us in the loop. Definitely hit like, share, and let your friends know Coffee Talk Podcast. All right. So when we created Coffee Talk Podcast, we wanted to be a little bit different than your normal podcasts that we're used to. We figure that in today's era, a lot of the old news media is dying out, but also the old news media has been exposed to always come up with storylines that displace our people, in a negative manner. So we want to go ahead and create some new news about positivity, uplifting, and culture building. And so that's what a Coffee Talk podcast is all about. We are definitely into our mental health. We are also into literature because we want to make sure that we can encourage these kids, the next generation, on how to read. And so if you know how to read, you know how to conduct yourself. If you know how to read, you know how to maneuver verbally within different arenas. And perhaps you may be able to accomplish some things by the way you express yourself. So Coffee Talk Podcast is the real deal, man. So continue to support Coffee Talk Podcast. We are the future. We are the now. Coffee Talk Podcast, the ones that bring you the flavor. All right, so if this is your first time tuning in, we never start the show without giving it some flavor as well as some wise words. So today's flavor is just a thought I was having, man. It's been 90 degrees for about the last 2 weeks or so. And typically I work out. And it's funny because I had a story today where I woke up this morning and my intentions was to walk the lake. And I decided to wake my youngest son up with me to, take a 2-lap walk around the lake. And as we headed out towards the lake, we drove past one of our little friends' restaurants. And we didn't end up making it to the workout, so to speak. Yeah. My son said, "Hey, Dad, there goes the steakhouse." And he said that because his mother had a grilled steak, a grilled chicken actually last night. A grilled chicken. We don't eat too much beef in the households. But I went ahead and I got me one today. And me and my son, we just didn't make it to any workouts today. And what that did as far as creating the flavor of tonight and what we're going to discuss as the flavor is my son. Just blame him, man. He's been having me cheating on my exercises for the last day and a half here. And I need to get back on top of things. You know what I mean? My son also lured me to not just work out today, but he also lured me over to one of our favorite ice cream places in the world. And we ended up getting Oreo Blizzard. So tonight, what do you thought after that? Come off my beam. I ain't worked out. Well, anyway, tonight's flavor, because it's hot and because, it's always been a good treat since we were young. Tonight's flavor is the Oreo Blizzard. So what did we want to detail about the Oreo Blizzard tonight to make it the flavor of tonight's episode? Well, did you know that the Oreo Blizzard was created in 1985? That's right. It was created in 1985 when Dairy Queen decided to go ahead and use Oreos in this partnership with Oreo. And that's what created the Oreo Blizzard. So tonight, with that being said, tonight's flavor is the Oreo Blizzard. And that mug is good. You know what I like? You know how I like to get my Oreo Blizzard? I like to get it with extra Oreos. You know what I'm talking about? Hey, so since we're discussing flavor, let me know, when's the first time you ever had an Oreo Blizzard? Do you still frequently have Oreo Blizzards? What is your favorite ice cream at any ice cream place you go to? Go ahead and put that in the comments. And did you have any cheat days today? I know a lot of us work out, but did you have a cheat day today? And if so, go ahead and leave that in the comments. Let us know what you had that was a cheat day today. Did you break down and have you a slice of cake or a muffin or something like that? Go ahead and let us know. Leave that in the comments. This is Coffee Talk Podcast, and you know what time it is. All right, moving right along. We never start our show without discussing the flavor as well as the wise words. So tonight's wise words is also going to be part of the discussion that we're having tonight. But tonight's wise words is from one of our greatest, I like to call him one of our greatest elders, one of our greatest ancestors, author, scholar, and that's Dr. Claude Anderson. And tonight, his wise words is this: Our determined but misdirected compassion is one of our greatest impediments to self-improvement. I'm going to go ahead and read that again for our intellectual people there. Let us know what your thoughts are on this. Dr. Claude Anderson stated, our determined but misdirected compassion is one of our greatest impediments to self-improvement. So what do you think he meant by that? Thank you. Well, what I took from that is something that you frequently see amongst our people currently. I want to read it one more time and give you the breakdown. Dr. Claude Anderson said, our determined but misdirected compassion is one of our greatest impediments to self-empowerment. So when I hear something like that, what I take from that is how we always want to fit into other cultures. And we typically will go out our way to try to become members of that group or fit in to their communities, neighborhoods, certain groups. And what it does when you try to fit in somewhere else where actually you're not even wanted, it's an impediment. It lessens our self-empowerment. Our self-empowerment meaning that we need to learn to build within ourselves. We need to create a common ground for ourselves. So when I hear that type of statement by Dr. Claude Anderson, I totally get it. You know, Stockholm syndrome is real out here, especially amongst our people. So as we get ready to dive on into our story for tonight, also by Dr. Claude Anderson, and it's just a short chapter titled Representing All of the People. Let's go ahead and see exactly how that message correlates further into our discussion. So before we go ahead and do that tonight, I would like to go ahead and say that I'm going to put you on a 30-second commercial break. And when we get back, we'll be ready to go ahead and have our discussion. So if you don't mind, this is a 30-second commercial break here at Coffee Talk Podcast, and we'll be right back. Peace. You know, I just noticed that I had my air conditioner on during the first part of that segment. And so, you know, I have to check and make sure that our vocals sound good, that you can hear us through the microphone or whatnot. Go ahead and let us know if you could. But let's go ahead and get right into our story for tonight. Again, this is by one of our elders, one of our greatest scholars, Dr. Author Claude Anderson, author of the book NOMICS, the National Plan to Empower Black America. And this was published back in 2001. So you may want to check that out. Again, that is Dr. Claude Anderson. Let's go ahead and begin, shall we? This is called representing all the people. What does that mean? Representing all the people. What does that mean? All right. Representing all the people. Only blacks will represent the universe and use non-specific organizational titles that avoid identification with their own people. The NAACP represents the civil rights interests of colored people and minorities and poor whites. The National Urban League represents the welfare of poor people and the multicultural and poor whites. And the Rainbow Coalition represents women, people of the rainbow, and poor whites. And the Nation of Islam is moving to represent all oppressed people, who then is representing the political interests of Black Americans. In an exchange on a national public radio program back in 1998, provides a good example of the irrelevance and vulnerability of Black groups that do not have Black issues as a focus and a priority. A very high official of one of the oldest Black civil rights organizations described it as one that has always had civil rights at its core, but recognized that in the changings of America, Black civil rights cannot be the organization's sole focus. He said, there are new non-white minorities, people of color, who are demanding a place in the sun. And even though their agenda is not totally like Blacks, we must be prepared to embrace them. Listen carefully. He spoke too about the long history of extensive white involvement in the organization, and that it must fight for all people of color, such as Blacks, Asians, and Hispanics, women, senior citizens, homosexuals, and even the poor whites. And a Hispanic caller named Mike called in. However, he took issue with the Black leader. Mike asserted that Hispanics are not people of color and requested that the organization not include Hispanics when it spoke of representing people of color. Mike went on to say that he and his family and all his Hispanic friends were white and did not want or need Black organizations to represent them. Do you ever find that people throughout your interactions with people, especially Hispanic people, that they would rather be considered white? Go ahead and let us know. Leave that in the comments. He said Hispanics and Asians have their own organizations. So why don't Blacks just look out for their own people? The Black leader challenged the caller to look in the mirror and on his driver's license and tell him what he saw. When the Hispanic caller said, white, I see white, the official of the Black organization responded, so we do represent y'all. White is a color too. Given the dire needs of Black Americans, the question is clearly, is it appropriate behavior for a premier civil rights organization to force itself on people who do not want or need the help while Black Americans go begging? That's an interesting question. So what they're saying right here is, because we are allowing other nationalities, I don't like to use the word minority because we are not minorities. But when we allow other nationalities to come into these programs that we fought so hard for, they're getting most of the funding and nothing is being trickled down to us. And a lot of these people that are getting the fundings from the programs don't even recognize as Black, nor feel that they have the same issues in America and on American soil as Blacks. So they try to distance themselves from it. Let's continue. Our determined but misdirected compassion is one of our greatest impediments to self-empowerment. We fail to concentrate our resources to empower Black Americans. How can Black Americans acquire a collective wealth and power resources when our lead organizations dissipate, have limited resources on civil rights for everybody. A study of material from a number of ethnic, language, religious, gender, minority organizations revealed that none of these groups included Blacks in their programs, policies, or their activities. So when you start to think of all these other cultural groups, and yes, they may be melanated, but their organizations are not speaking to the needs of Black people. They only worry about their culture. Now, one of the problems that we're having when you speak of Asians and other different minority groups is that deep down, other minority groups, and again, forgive me for saying the word minority, they're still waiting to see what we're going to do. The whole world is always watching us, the original people, and what we're going to do. But time and time again, it seems like we don't know who we are. You know? In his book, Winning Black America, Mark Green listed all the nation's top minority rights organizations, and the only groups that even used the word minority in their programs' descriptions were the Black civil rights organizations. Ignoring Black people's dilemma by equating them to all so-called aggrieved groups is wrong-headed, whether it is done by whites, Blacks, or others. Not only does it give the false impression that all people in this nation have had the same experiences as Black people, it also injures and minimizes the impact of centuries of slavery, segregation, and ongoing racism. Worse, it releases white society its obligations to correct the conditions imposed on Blacks. Organizations whose agendas have evolved into this kind of scattered focus do not put group self-interest first. And see, that's just it. A lot of the other cultures are looking at us like, well, why don't y'all stick together? We're always fighting one another, always having some type of handout, always willing to go with whoever gives us the most crumbs, and never questioning. However, just as the missions became amorphous over the years, they can regroup, reassess their organizational direction, and change once again. If they choose to be a part of the effort to maximize Black self-sufficiency and Black economic competitiveness, they can focus their mission to promote and support Black group self-interest and political empowerment. So what he's saying is that we have to start to realize that individually, it just doesn't work. We have to come up with some type of common ground or a set of goals that we all can contribute to that will help in its own way. Everybody has to play their part. So should we continue our organizations and those who are nonprofits as saying represent all the people, when in fact it may not be all the people that are representing us in those times? This is an open discussion. Go ahead and leave your thoughts. Excuse me. And let us know what your thoughts are on Dr. Claude Anderson, as well as his wise words that was also in tonight's reading. And his wise words were, "Our determined but misdirected compassion is one of the greatest impediments to self-empowerment. So with that said, go ahead and leave your comments. Let us know what your thoughts are on that. And as usual, I'm going to go ahead and hit you with the universal sign and let you know this is Cultural Studies Night, Coffee Talk Podcast. As you can see, we are in the coffee shop. So that's our show for tonight. Thank you for tuning in as always. I will see you Wednesday night when we have our Wednesday night sports show. So make sure that you tune in for Wednesday night sports. You don't want to miss it. And until next time, make sure you get you some flavor and make sure that you hit like, support, and share Coffee Talk Podcast, the Cultural Variety Podcast Show. Thank you.